If you've been doing trauma work for a while, you probably have a pretty clear sense of what you're good at. You've built a specialized skill set, you've developed your clinical instincts, and maybe lately you've started to feel a pull towards something different. Intensives, a group program, consultation, teaching, something that isn't built entirely around the 53-minute hour. But when you've actually tried to think about how to make that happen, something stops you. Maybe it's overwhelm or a sense of not knowing where to start. So let's talk about why that happens. Hi, I'm Kristen. I'm a trauma therapist and a business coach for trauma therapists who are ready to evolve their practices into something that actually fits where they are now and not where they were when they started. The pattern I see most often isn't therapists who lack the skills to build something different. It's the therapists who haven't yet claimed the identity that would make building something different feel possible. And that's what this video is about. When I ask therapists what's getting in the way of evolving their practice, they almost always say something like, I don't know anything about business, or I just don't know where to start. I get overwhelmed and then I just put it off for another day. And I get it. Most of us went into this field specifically because we didn't want to be in business. The corporate world, the profit focus, the hustle culture, none of that is why we became trauma therapists. And maybe you, like me, actually left that world to become a therapist. But here's what I've come to believe after years of doing this work and working alongside other therapists who are trying to build something sustainable. The thing stopping you isn't a knowledge gap. It's an identity gap. You don't see yourself as a business owner. So when you try to think like one, it feels foreign. It feels like you have to be someone you're not. Here's what I want to offer you, though. The moment you opened your private practice, you became a business owner. That's just the truth. The question is whether you're going to claim that identity intentionally and start making decisions from that place. The landscape of mental health care is changing, and I want to be direct with you about what I think that means for trauma therapists in private practice. For a long time, the path to building a practice was pretty straightforward. You get your license, get your tax ID, enroll on insurance panels, and fill your caseload. It wasn't easy exactly, but the roadmap was clear. And for a lot of therapists, that model has worked really well for a long time. But I don't think that's going to be enough moving forward. AI tools are coming into the mental health space fast, and I think they're going to change how people access support in ways that we haven't fully reckoned with yet. When someone can open an app and get immediate connection and education about anxiety, nervous system regulation, or trauma responses, the bar for seeking out a therapist shifts. And my honest belief, based on how insurance companies operate, I think that AI-assisted tools will increasingly become the first thing insurers point people toward before authorizing therapy. The reimbursement rates that were already too low and haven't kept pace with the cost of doing this work well, I don't see that changing either. What that means, practically, is that trauma therapists who are building their entire practice on an insurance-based referral model are heading towards some income ceiling, and in some cases a referral ceiling, that I think is only going to get lower. But here's what I also believe. The need for skilled trauma therapists isn't going away. It's just shifting. People will have more access to information about trauma, their nervous systems, and mental health more than ever before. What they won't have is someone who can help them actually integrate that information into their lives, their relationships, their sense of self. That integration work is done with the support of a skilled trauma clinician. It'll be hard to find an app to do that. The therapists who thrive in the next generation of private practice will be the ones who stop relying on the old roadmap and start building something that reflects their actual expertise, their value, and the clients they most want to serve. And that requires making the mindset shift from clinician to business owner. Not someday, but now, while the window is open to position yourself intentionally. Here's what I'd love for you to understand. The skills that you've built as a trauma therapist are more transferable to business than you realize. Because here's what I know for sure. The very thing that makes you an excellent trauma therapist, your curiosity, is the same thing that will help you as you evolve your business. If you're feeling overwhelmed, well, you know better than most that being in fear mode is a defense strategy. It keeps us safe from the unknown. But you also know that being stuck in any defense strategy is not healthy or adaptive. And what would you encourage your client to do? Well, probably just notice the fear, orient to present. So let's try to do that together. Let's orient to present about your business owner identity. Your clinical skills are totally transferable to business. In some areas, you have more skills than most small business owners. First, you have a thirst for learning. You would not be an amazing trauma therapist if you didn't love to learn. You have learned how to think in systems, identify patterns, communicate effectively, and navigate conflicts. You build relationships. You know how to create safety, establish trust, and build long-term working alliances. These are all business skills. Think about it. Marketing is fundamentally about relationship building and communication skills. You know that the work requires you to be adaptable. You shift your approach based on what your client needs. Business owners do the same thing. They adapt to the environment. You think long-term. Trauma work is not a quick fix. You know how to hold a vision for where someone is going while meeting them exactly where they are today. That is the orientation business owner. The skills are there. What's missing is the frame. And that's what stepping into a business owner identity actually means. It's applying the skills you have to a different area. And I'll be honest, shifting into a business owner mindset and learning about business, it will not be nearly as hard as the work you do as a trauma therapist. And I'd offer that maybe it will even be a little fun to learn something new and maybe give your brain the shift it's been needing to make this work sustainable long term. So if you're going to start thinking and operating like a business owner, what does that actually mean in practice? I like to look at it across 5 domains. The first is financials. Do you actually know your numbers? Not a vague sense of whether things are okay, but a real understanding of what your practice needs to generate for you to pay yourself consistently, set aside money for taxes, build that vacation fund, and plan for retirement. Your financials are the foundation, and everything else depends on them. The second is operations, which means your practice policies. Cancellation, payment, communication, sliding scale. And as you know, for trauma therapists, policies aren't just administrative paperwork. They're part of the therapeutic frame. Consistently enforced policies are one of the most genuinely trauma-informed things you can offer your clients. The third is time management. Have you actually designed your schedule, or did your clients design it for you? Trauma work is metabolically expensive in ways that are hard to explain to people who don't do it. A business owner looks at their schedule strategically. Buffer time, client placement, recovery windows, and protected time for the work that isn't client-facing. If you want to add an income stream or evolve your practice, the time and energy has to come from somewhere. And that means designing your schedule on purpose. The fourth is marketing. And I know that word lands badly for a lot of therapists, so let's reframe it. Marketing is how the right clients find you. It's not about being salesy or self-promotional. It's about being clear enough and visible enough that the people who need what you offer can actually find you. You have something genuinely valuable, and the people who need it deserve to be able to find you. The fifth domain is professional development, but approached as a business strategy rather than just CE hour accumulation. What training or credential would actually move the needle for where you want to go? What would deepen your ability to serve the clients you most want to work with, or help you build expertise in an area that you'd like to teach or provide consultation around? Intentional professional development is how you build the foundation for what comes next. It's important to look honestly at where you are across all these 5 domains before you start building on something new. We want to evolve on a solid foundation. If there are gaps, it's much better to know that now and address them than to build something bigger on top of a structure that's already under strain. So what would moving forward actually look like? Step 1 is to get honest about where you are, not where you think you should be or where you wish you were, but where you actually are across all of the 5 domains. Most therapists have a general sense that things could be better, but they haven't looked specifically at which areas are most underdeveloped. That clarity is what makes everything else possible. Step 2 is to pick one thing. The therapists I've watched make real progress don't try to fix everything at once. They identify the one area that is most limiting their ability to move forward, and they work on that first. Focused attention on the right constraint changes things faster than scattered effort across all 5 different areas. Step 3 is to implement, which sounds obvious, but it deserves a moment. Implementation means making actual decisions about your rates, your policies, your schedule, your messaging, and then putting them into practice. And here's something important to understand about implementing change as a trauma therapist specifically. Some decisions will take time to execute ethically. You can't walk into a session tomorrow and tell a long-term client that their rate is changing immediately. We have ethical obligations and we have relationships to honor. But when you're operating as a business owner, you make the decision and then you make the plan and then you execute on it thoughtfully. I've created a free self-assessment tool for trauma therapists who are ready to take an honest look at their practice. It measures where you are across all 5 domains, gives you a score for each one, includes reflection questions, and Claude prompts to help you get specific about what needs attention first. It's the starting point for everything I just described, and the link is in the description below. But here's what I'd love for you to hold on to. You are already a business owner. You have been since the day you opened your practice. The question is whether you're going to claim that identity and let it inform how you make your decisions, how you design your schedule, how you think about your fees, and how you think about your policies and the future of your practice. The knowledge is learnable, and the skills you spent years building as a trauma therapist are more relevant to this work than you've been giving yourself credit for. The only question for you is, where should you start? So grab the assessment through the link below, and I'll see you in the next video where we're going to talk about one of the first practical things you can do to start living into that business owner identity, protecting time in your schedule that belongs entirely to your business.